Hello, you are watching Uncommon Conversations on Signature Television. We're reaching you from our Enugu studios. Of course, Enugu is still the capital of Southeast Nigeria. We used to be the capital of Eastern Region, East Central State, Anambra State, Old Enugu State, and of course the Enugu State. So it's still the capital of Southeast Nigeria. I just woke up this morning, whether you are in Meduguri or you are in Port Harcourt or whether you are in Ibadan or whether you are in Sokoto or whether you are in the southeast, to an avalanche of protests from citizens of Nigeria who over the past 1 year and 2 months have continued to suffer from what they call bad governance. They said the era of bad governance started on 29th of May when the president, who was just sworn in on that day, made an announcement. Fuel subsidy is gone. And with that announcement, everything went haywire. And in the past 1 year and 2 months, I just have had it rough. Some would say the good, the bad, the ugly. And in the past 2 months, it got a head on that Nigerians are beginning to say, no, we need to make our voices heard. We need to express our feelings. We want the people in government to know the way we are feeling. Dollar, of course, to the naira is beyond anybody's reach. Food prices has skyrocketed. And somebody just said this morning that if you take 100,000 naira to the market, you come with a tiny polythene bag. If you take 10,000 naira to the market, you'll be searching your hands what actually did I buy. And so there have been threats of a protest across the nation. Government at all levels, federal and states, have made frantic efforts to avert this protest. For me and for most people, the right to vote is as equal as to the right to protest. If you can vote, then you can protest. And no Nigerian should be deprived of that right. But where your right stops and that man's right begins, you have a right to swing your arms, but you must mind the noses or faces of people standing by your side. So as you go out to protest, you must ensure that I have the freedom to drive my car to wherever I want to go. Since morning, across all states, Federal Capital Territory inclusive, they have demonstrated in many ways their feelings. And so this evening, we're going to have just a conversation around what has been going on since morning. And I've been joined by no less a person than the chairman of Guild of Public Affairs Analysts of Nigeria, Enugu State Branch, who is also a communication scholar. Actually, he's a development communication scholar at University Don, Ambrose Iwoke, PhD. Ambrose, how are you?
Well, we are fine. Thank you.
Oh, you're fine?
Yeah, we are protesting our own here.
Okay,
like intellectual protest.
No. Ambrose, you woke up in the morning. So did you join the protest or were you protesting in the bedroom?
Well, we have been perpetual protest by the nature of our jobs as public affairs analysts.
Okay.
We are perpetual protest because we always try to engage the government. We try to highlight where the government is doing wrong. We're trying to commend where the government does well. And we try to set agenda for the people as well as for the government. And we'll bring all those things to fore. We have been saying those things even since. It's just that some people were still engrossed in their party politics, ethnic sentiments, and religious affiliations. But now I think it's biting deep on everybody. And then suddenly the Nigerians woke up.
Okay, what's your take on the right to protest? Is it a legitimate right?
Well, it's enshrined in the Constitution and any democracy. In fact, it's a constitutional right in any democracy. And where democracy does not exist, it is a taken right. It's taken by force. Because even in dictatorships, we see protests. We have seen them in Nigeria. The military era was not a democratic era. But the president today and his cohorts who formed the crux of NADECO, National Democratic Coalition, to protest against the annulment of the June 12th presidential election of MKO Abiola, formed a coalition in terms where protest was not a legitimate right in the Abacha regime. Even during the IBB era, where they came out to the streets and ensured that Babangida stepped aside. And when Abacha took over, they were on the streets in the face of, they were, in fact, Ganifa Wahimi, Falan, all those people, when they finished protesting, they put out their arm like this for handcuffs because they know they must pick them. Because that time it was illegitimate. They were tear gas, they were put in various prisons, they were being killed, but the protest still went on. That's to show you the resilience of the human nature. So that is why constitutionally in democracies they allow it, because human beings need to ventilate their frustrations, need to express their anger, needs to have an avenues to set their disaffections. If you don't give it to them, then you are creating monsters. So give them that avenue. And when during the military era where it was not given, it was taken by the citizens. And what did the state do? The despotic state, they started killing them. We lost people. Simbiat Abiola was assassinated. We lost people like Alfred Riwani and a lot of other people. People like Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who's our president now, went on exile. People like Professor Woloshenka went on exile. Kayode Fayemi them and all those places. And after that, the NADECO had to go and establish a radio station outside this country and was beaming the signals back. So these are protests. Because there's what you call physical protest, there's what you call guerrilla protest, there are all kinds of, there's what you call, last one I mentioned, intellectual protest. There are other protests like sit at home. It's a sort of protest where the citizens refuse to come out. And so, but what we have today is what we call the street protest, where people were asked to come out on the street to move around and protest, wave their banners, make speeches, do communiques, and the rest. So it is an enshrined right. During the military era, there was the issue that before you protest, you must write to the authorities, military authorities,
get permission.
And you must get permission. A lot of costs are thrown that away in a constitutional democracy, that you don't need permission. But the police seems to be still stuck in the past. We see police commissioners, high-ranking police officials expressing ignorance on the matter. You do not need, the citizens don't need your permission to protest. All they need to do is to inform you that, look, we are coming out for protest. And why they inform you is for you to provide adequate security so that legitimate protests are not hijacked, so that legitimate protests don't spiral into riots, so that they don't spiral into violence. And that is why you must inform the security authority, especially the police, to ensure that guide. And then, if it is even street where you need to involve other agencies like the road safety. Sometimes the NDDC is involved, so that the vehicular traffic in a state like Lagos, where they have agencies like Lamata, this is Lagos State Motor Agency, where they control traffic. LASMA, sorry, I wanted to talk about LASMA, where they control traffic and they engage them, so that, as you said, while your right to protest is going on, you don't infringe on the right of the right of movement of other citizens. So they help to direct traffic. They help to make sure that people with dangerous weapons don't infiltrate or don't become part. They make sure you don't burn down infrastructure. You don't loot people's businesses. So those are why the police should be involved.
Okay. Yes, the right to protest is enshrined in the Constitution, and where it is not given, it is taken. That's Ambrose Ibuke. Now, for a protest to happen, there should be certain basic measures to be taken. You mentioned one, you inform the police. And that means police will, when you inform them, they will make sure they have enough personnel. But assuming we take consider to inform them, like you say, it's not getting permission. You just inform them and say we don't have personnel to back up what they're doing. What does the law say about that? Is it silent on it?
No, I think it's a bit silent. But the police is mandated by the constitutional duties also imposed on them to ensure that they provide security. Because they are not just providing security for the protesters, they are providing security for the society, for the citizens.
And that's why they're paid.
That's why they are paid. So, and that's why there's taxpayers' money. Both the people that are protesting and the people moving around their legitimate duties who are not part of the protest are part of the Nigerian citizen everyday life. So that is why but because the protest is not a daily activity, a normal daily routine, that is why they are even informed. Because citizens don't inform police. If you want to have a meeting now, you don't inform police. If you want to go and play a football match, you don't inform police. If you want to go and go to the market, you don't inform the police. Because these are routine basic, because the police is already strategically located in all these places. But when it's now things like that will have a large number of convergence, then you can now start saying, oh, this is not normal. It is something out of the routine. That's why we are informing the police, so that the police can beef up security in that area. Security can now provide logistics support for the men in that area. For example, if you say you are protesting in a place like Ikeja in Lagos, the police in Ikeja may not be able to handle, they may not to mop up other places. If you say you are protesting in a place like Enugu, for example, and where you are protesting in Enugu is Abakaliki, people from the other areas from Enugu will have to also join the police in Abakaliki to ensure that, So that is why you inform the police, because there are going to be more men and logistics needed, apart from maybe the divisional or area command in that place to handle.
The run up to this, to today, the Nigerian government had made some frantic efforts, albeit late, an attempt to stop the protests. State governors also took the challenge. Some brought out some measures, some called some organizations, called some youth groups, faith-based organizations, and said, please, don't do this. Looking back, do you think government acted proactively, or did they come too late? Because they knew when they started this. These last-minute efforts were like firefighting.
What I noticed, basically, was that non-elected government officials were talking to Nigerians. We don't know them. Nigerians don't know them. They were not in the ballot box. They didn't go to Nigerians to ask for votes. And they were the one talking. They were the one pushing the narrative of toughness. They were the one pushing the narrative of force in a democracy, using all kinds of languages that the military used in their era. And these people are mostly ministers, appointees. There are people that didn't go to the ballot box that Nigerians don't know. At the state level is the governor and the deputy governor that were voted for. Every other person is an appointee in the state executive council or whatever. The same thing at the federal level. It's only the president and vice president that were in the ballot box. Every other person is an appointee at the other state executive, except the only people who are now fully voted for is the National Assembly members, who have a conglomeration of people voted for from every part of the country. So when I say minister talk, like the minister of FCT talking tough that it will not happen in FCT. I say, are you the owner of FCT? FCT belongs to Nigerians. So why will you even say? So you find out there is appointees that we're talking. And this gives a discordant tune. The government did not, at the federal level, the government did not handle this matter as a team that is organized. Various people were speaking differently, apart from the meetings that were held at the federal level, that maybe the Minister of Communication will come say something, address the media. The other people, I don't know what gave them the impetus. I saw the Minister of Coordinating Economy talking, Minister, different FCT talking, Minister of this we talk, even heads of agencies we talk, talking tough. Party people we talk. We don't know these people. These people are mere appointees, talking down on Nigerians, telling them that they cannot demonstrate or protest, telling them that they cannot even, you see, people who are supposed to have decorum. I overheard the commissioner of police, a senior police officer in Cross River State. Is that, I think, the commissioner, but I'm not too sure, this afternoon, talking about that you have a right to protest, but if you drop a pin, you go down with the pin. If you want to pick a pin, you go down. Those kind of languages. So what we are saying is that the government did not, the president himself, I heard the chief Ajolin Grenale yesterday, who is the spokesperson of the president, saying that the president did not say that Nigerians should not protest.
But are you concerned? Perhaps I may say, are you worried that the president did not address the nation, even prior to this morning. The closest to that was the governor of Lagos State, who actually addressed Lagosians yesterday and appealed to them and set out a few things they think they could do. Because for those you say they were elected, a responsive and a responsible elected leader would have taken this seriously and would have gone ahead to at least have a State of the Nation address, whether it's at the federal or state level. Beyond, apart from the Lagos State governor, I don't think any other governor did so.
Yeah, I think the engagement was so poor, both at the federal level and the state level. The same thing I said before, we're having appointees talking to us and not our elected officials. The PR strategy, the public relations strategy was very, very poor. The diplomatic tactics was also very, very disappointing. So when you come to this of this nature, I know there should be engagements, but there's nothing like hearing from your leader. Even in the various states, we're hearing youth leaders talking, you hear NANS talk, you hear market women talk. Is this how government is run? There were no strategic concerted efforts. So perhaps somebody once said that maybe in a country like this that have a public relations institute or mediators or different groups that are high professionals, if the government didn't know what to do, they would have engaged some of these professionals to give them a blueprint or give them a public relation or strategy, communication strategy, to be able to reach out to people. And then people were just talking differently, trying to impress.
Even at cross purposes.
Cross purposes, trying to impress, trying to look at Bayo Ononuga, say it was Peter Obi and his group, all kinds of things. Some people will come out threatening because of the loose way the public relation was handled and the communication. So everybody jumped on social media and started making video with their phones. Even the one that was saying that it was the Igbos that did it and that are planning it. So all kinds of things. And that is not how to, do what we call crisis management. How to do crisis communication. There's a special field called crisis communication, where in crisis there are languages, there are tones you use, even inflections. By saying come or come here, even the tone you use to say it matters, and that is the issue that we'll be having here. The president, if they had gotten a strategic team to handle it, they would have told the president this thing you are saying, address the nation. Yeah. And then this would have been done like maybe 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And then, some of the prescriptions I gave one time was that last week, why not engage these people? Some of them by 2 weeks ago have started coming out. People like Adegboruwa, who is a son, has also said, I identify with these people. People like Showore, I identify with this. And okay, let's start getting the faces. Can we release the parks? Every town, at least every state capital, have a particular park where they, like in Abuja is Eagle Square. In Lagos, they have a lot of parks. Why didn't the government say, okay, we'll provide these parks for you, or we'll provide this center for you, we'll provide this for you, you can congregate there, we can do this. That will give them incentives to even say, okay, let's converge here. And then they can start doing things there. And the street protests might even reduce. Look at what happened in Abuja today at Eagle Square, which is a public park. So what you needed to do, put security and ensure that things are not destroyed in the park, so that you can have a place. Instead of them moving around, you can have portions where they can congregate. So if the president has come out to address the nation and say, we know things are hard, we know things are tough, this and that, we recognize that the country is tough, but these are the processes we have patience with us. If you must demonstrate, we know it's your inalienable right. We shall protect you. We shall ensure that you are safe. We are provided, we are in the state executive council, the state council plus the governors. We have agreed that strategic places have been mapped out. Then each governor goes back to his own state, makes an announcement and says, so park has been brought out, this and that. That would have minimized the tension. You would have seen people going different places with their plates of food or drinks, or DJ would have been set up. In fact, the state government can set up a DJ and turn it to a carnival. So these are the ways you can douse down the tensions and control the protests.
I think that in civilized climes, protests could be actually peaceful. But Nigerian government made reference and I want you to weigh in on this. They ran back to the NSAS, and it became an excuse that the NSAS was violent or became violent. You know, there are two different things. Either it was violent or sometimes it became violent. There might be intrusions for it to become violent. And so they were scared. They said that the protesters were wanting to do what happened in NSAS. When you had that, did it make any meaning to you?
It did, because some of these people are, the people in government, the past governments, the immediate past government, this government, are actually victims of violence during protests. I remember Buhari. It was the process of a protest led by Buhari, and that Chubu Akadibo was inhaled what he inhaled that finally ended his life.
Yeah.
They were protesting, and arm in arm, they were tear gassed.
Yeah.
They were tear gassed, and Chuba didn't make that.
He didn't survive that.
He didn't survive that. That's what killed Chuba Akadibo. And the same Buhari now became president, and we couldn't manage a protest. This is something we are talking about here. We talked about Tinubu being in the trenches, over the years.
He went into exile.
He went into exile because of a brutal regime. We remember the days of Tell magazine that they went into. In fact, they were not allowed to broadcast, to publish. They went into what's called guerrilla journalism.
Guerrilla journalism.
Guerrilla journalism. They didn't know. They didn't have an address for printing the newspaper.
They could do the magazine.
You don't even know where they are doing.
Yes.
The magazines were coming out. We have suffered tough this thing. These are. It's not just even protests by being violent. The state was violent on Nigerian citizens, but we survived this, and we saw what happened at the end of the day. So what you have done was, you don't use one example. We have had litany of protests. Why didn't you use the Ojota January 2012 protest against removal of fuel subsidy? Why didn't you use that as an example? When musicians were coming to entertain Nigerians in Ojota Park, Ganifa Awemi Park in Ojota, that was also replicated in some other places. Why didn't you use all the protests about fuel increments? I remember the days of Adams Oshomole as president of Nigeria Labour Congress. In fact, the strike was almost like 3 or 4 times a year, major strikes. Once they increased fuel price, there will be strike. And people were strike and protests. They didn't just end the strike. They protested, and Nigerians were joining the protest. I remember the late Jim Albani, the CLO guy too, was very prominent in that. And people were protesting. So we have been protesting. In the time of Ella, there were lots of protests. That was military regime. A lot of protests. We had protests against SAP, Structural Adjustment Program. We had protests, in fact, as much as 1976, we had protests in the Nigerian University called the Ali Must Go protest. Yes. Some of these people, some of these people now, were students then and really, really participated in that protest. Ali Must Go. So why are we pretending? Why are we just singling out the NSAS? And the NSAS project, the protest has gone on for some days before that 20th of October mayhem that happened. So why did it happen that day? Because that was the last day of the protest. Yeah. That ended the protest. The protest was on for some few days. Why are we not remembering those few days? So it is a failure. For me, it is a failure of security for a protest to go violent. It's a failure of intelligence gathering. It's failure because the security agencies themselves are supposed to be part of the protest. The intelligence community are supposed to be part of it in Mufti.
They could even be embedded.
They embed themselves in the crowd, and because that is how intelligence work is done.
Okay, I want to bring you back to the Southeast. Because the charity, they often say we should begin at home. Ohanes Ndigbo, both the leadership worldwide and the youth organization, state governors, Ohanes Ndigbo and some Igbo groups brought out an angle that, of course, as far as I was concerned, was somehow confusing. They brought the idea that Igbos have suffered and been marginalized, and there will be a lot of killings in the Igbo land. And they say, please, don't come out. Don't participate. Don't protest. Even as eminently placed as the deputy speaker. In fact, he made an appeal, a last-minute appeal, telling our people, Don't make yourself guinea pigs to be slaughtered. And if you listen to people, they tell you, oh, when we are suffering, the rest of the country kept quiet. Therefore, it appeared unofficially, so to speak. A lot of people, not state actors, are saying, Ndibo and I participate. Did you hear that? And honestly, what were your thoughts?
Well, there were some videos of Igbo boys say, when you read the video, what you see is that Igbo boys have started the protest. And when you open the video, you see people consuming plates of pepper soup and and beer, and say that is their own protest. They're making a parody of protest. The Igbos have been known to be liberal people. They are the only ones in this country that venture into the farthest parts of any corner in this country to do business. So they are very liberalized people. They are very liberal. They see Nigeria as their own, right from the time of Zeke, But Nigeria has not seen the Igbos as having that right to, especially after the Biafran War that ended in 1970. Germany, that did the Second World War, have been embraced by Europe just a few years after the war. They have been embraced by Europe. Today, Germany, in the last 10 years, have been leaders of Europe. Nobody is still telling them that, you waged a war against the world, you waged a war against Europe, this. They have emerged. That past have gone. But Nigeria seems to be stuck in the past. Because the Igbos, because of their liberal nature and this thing, we don't want anything clannish. It's about Nigeria, it's about us. But what has happened is that recently, I think the Igbos are beginning to understand the fact that it pays in Nigeria to be clannish. It pays in Nigeria to be ethnocentric. It pays. Because that is what other groups in Nigeria have been doing. Our brothers in the southwest, our brothers in the north. That ethnic clannishness has paid off plenty for them. So recently, you can see that in the last 3 weeks, listening to this protest, it has been dubbed an Igbo protest. The same thing that could happen in January 15, 1966. A coup that every sector of the Nigerian country dubbed it an Igbo coup. That led to the issues of that coup led to the civil war. Now we come again, almost how many years later, there's a protest that Nigerians say they are hungry. The organizers of the protest are even from, that have identified with the protest are from other parts of the country. Showore is not from, it's not an Igbo man. Deji Adeyonju is not an Igbo man. Adegoruwa is not an Igbo man. Yet, somebody from the government, an appointee of government, came out and said it's because Peter Obi lost election. Then some other people also came and said that videos have emerged. There was a video that I think at the Dumota market where they were telling people not to come out for post. So the people were like, okay, it seems you guys are not suffering this hunger. You are not suffering the hyperinflation. You are not suffering from the skyrocketed cost of living. Okay, good. Since it is like that, and there have been obvious marginalization, I keep on saying about the Lokoweto Bridge.
I want you to hold your thoughts. We'll just go on a short break. When we come back, you pick up from where you just stopped about this idea that the Igbos feel even maltreated, and in fact it's been dubbed wrongly an Igbo protest. And therefore, some people are saying, stay put. So don't go anywhere, we'll be back shortly. You are still watching Uncommon Conversations on Signature Television, and we're still reaching you from our Enugu studios. My guest is still Dr. Ambrose Igboke. Before we went on break, Ambrose, you are trying to explain your feelings or your thoughts about, quote and unquote, the idea that some Igbo people say, look, we're not in this. Please, we don't want to be made a mincemeat for what does not concern us.
Remember the 1993 also Abiola, when the Igbos dubbed it also Abiola. When the Nadeko issue started, the protest against the annulment of June 12th election, a lot of Igbos left where they were living, especially in the southwest, and relocated. Some of them ran for their lives because it reminded a lot of them of 1967, 66, 67. Igbos were mostly casualties. A lot of them died on their way. A lot of them lost their means of livelihood just because of fear. In when we also had the issues or crises of the early 2000s about religion, about ethnicity, when the various militia groups, ethnic militia groups, started coming up. And there were riots, there were fights both in the north, and which businesses suffered? Mostly Igbo businesses suffered. When we had the Miss World pageant crisis that happened in Denmark and the retaliatory state was in Nigeria, Igbo businesses suffered.
Are you saying, because it will give you a lot of analysis, are you saying that the call by some people that Igbos should stay at home was right? Because that is the crux of the matter.
No, the issue that I'm just giving background why Igbos, even the NSAS, why many business suffered. A lot of Igbo business
giving
suffered.
all those.
Giving all those. And then the narrative of the last 3 weeks. You are
Yes.
not telling the Igbos that you are the cause of the Igbos were like, okay, since you are not feeling the pinch, and it looks like it's only us who feel the pinch, okay, let's stay away. Let's see whether your ethnic jingoism, your ethnicity, your religious affiliation, your party affiliation will reduce the cost of food for you when you go to the market, for example. We give you the jobs you need, and we create a good governance for you. So, most of the Igbos, a lot of the Igbo youths that were engaged, they said that they're not doing it. They stayed away.
Okay, that takes us to the actual protests. When in Enugu, it would appear, so to speak, that Enugu has been peaceful, even though the streets are deserted. Do you think it's a response to this call?
Yes, somebody wrote that protest or no protest, we are all losers. And I align with that. Today is a Thursday. It is a day for businesses. And though we didn't do protests in Enugu and other parts of the south, there were no protests.
But economic activities.
But economic activities were grounded. And that's why I align with the person, protest or no protest, we are all losers. Because we didn't know how much billions of naira that was lost in the southeast today because of this protest and in other parts of the country. So it affected us in a way or the other, but there were no protests in Igbo land because of these issues we have aligned, and then people just sat back at home and said, well, when the other parts of the country are ready to open up, and they will do. But the streets are just deserted. People are people are cautious. They're watching the thing from their TV. Other parts of the country are doing their own protests. Most businesses are locked. They didn't open. And then, of course, thank God schools are on holiday already, most schools, almost every school. So it's the southeast, the protest didn't hold.
Okay. I monitored what was going on in the country, and I think Bayelsa, I want to pick Bayelsa. And I'm wondering why the southeast governors didn't even do what Bayelsa did. The Bayelsa governor said, today is not a holiday, you have to come to work. Protesters, you have a right to protest. We'll protect you. So from the video clips I got, the news I monitored, Bayelsa, people were walking, people were protesting, and they were being protected, and there was no violence, at least at the point before we entered the studio.
People were also protesting for government, even then. There was another set of protesters.
No, yes, so
in Bayelsa,
but at least the governor says, come to work. That's number one. Protesters, go on and protest. Security people, protect them. And the clips we got from watching that showed that, you see, that was one state I saw everything moving. The protesters were on, and so does it mean that if there's a protest, government activity should be shut down?
It doesn't mean, but because of the narratives and that of
But
what
if it
has
can happen in Bayelsa, what will happen in other
well, the
places?
narratives, the Southeast was in the last few days of the, Southeast has already been, there was always complaint of being heavily policed, heavily
But you see
militarized.
police in Enugu today.
No, I'm talking about over time.
Yes.
People have complained. The number of roadblocks in Southeast is nowhere in this country. And then in the last few days, we see a lot of military presence. People in Owerri yesterday mentioned that. But people were, because of experiences in the past, so people are actually afraid. And these things you said Bayelsa governor did, we didn't hear that from any corner in the Southeast too. If this, like I said, protesters, when you work with them, there's another state, for example, Commissioner of Police in Edo State
Yes. I was going to come to
came
that.
out and addressed the protesters, and
was-
they were cheering him. They
Yes.
were, they were happy. Say, oh God, yes, because he came out and said, look, you have your right to protest. We will protect you. Don't worry, but also don't be violent.
I saw that
We
thing.
are there. If anybody comes to want to scatter what you are doing, we will make sure the person does not succeed. And he spoke to them.
That was engagement.
And he engaged them, and they were surrounding him.
I
He was
saw
not
the clip.
afraid.
They were actually doing that.
They were surrounding him. He was not even surrounded by his own men. He was surrounded by the protesters, and the protesters were hailing him. They were very happy with him, because that is engagement. Those people are not spirits. The protesters, they are your
Yes.
fraternal people. They are your family members. They are your sons. They are your daughters. They are your citizens. They are from your umona in Igbo land, as we say, from your community, your kindred. So you are not even supposed to be afraid of them if you don't have anything to worry about. So if the commissioner of police could come out and do that, so the kind of engagement, maybe the governor of Bayelsa State has the police command, the same thing, and they have also engaged, and that is how you are seeing that comradeship going on. And that is it. Unlike what happened in Abuja, where everything was tough. You cannot go into this Eagle Square. You cannot do this. You throw canisters. You do this. Those are things. If we have civil engagement, we will de-escalate the tension.
Let's
and the
take two
situation.
isolated states. Let's isolate Imo from the news report. We may be wrong, but there are reports that in Imo, somebody was killed, a shop owner was killed, and a truck belonging to Imo Waste Management Agency was bought. I saw a clip of that. I don't know whether it will actually happen today, but that's the news making the headlines. Now, let's also go to Kano. I'm sure you also saw the clip where somebody was killed in one local government, and then there was massive looting of warehouses. Those are the worst case scenario. Then after that, you touch Adamawa, where we are not sure, but at least we read and I heard and I watched, where the protesters, so to speak, protest in quotes, the protest turned into appreciation of government. Two opposing scenarios. So,
Even in Bayelsa, there was a group that was, I saw in one of the TV channels, that was thanking the president for a job well done. So it seems the government had their own protesters and citizens had their own
the report
protesters.
said that protests in Adamawa turned into appreciation because they didn't show this other side of people protesting in Adamawa. They only show quite a number of people who were actually.
Yeah, well, it's not a protest now. I don't know why
They
call
came
it
out protesters.
They came out as demonstrators, demonstrating
so-
appreciation.
So, what do you think about this?
Well, Kano
the
own-
dimension in Kano
I think
and
Kano, what is happening in Kano? Kano has been a Tyndall box for a while. Kano has been on the precipice for a while because, one, the governorship tussle in Kano was very, very bitter and divisive.
and the state.
We're just
the state
settling
is-
on
the
down.
state is divided.
We're just settling down on that. This issue of emirship thing came again. So Kano is highly polarized, and there's tension in Kano. We have two emirs there right now, and they have followers, massive followers on their own. So I think this was just an opportunity
for people to vent.
for people to vent. I don't think what happened in Kano today has something to do with the protest of end bad governance. I think it has more to do with the cultural and political fireworks that is happening in Kano. I think that is what that ventilation is all about in Kano. Then the other state we also did not mention is Maiduguri. There's a curfew now. There's a 24-hour curfew that has been imposed in Borno State, Maiduguri. So there are also some clashes there over there. So I think the security apparatus should just sit down, take a look at this, what has happened today, do an evaluation. For Lagos, what happened there was that the protesters, the governor came out, addressed them, talked to them. There are some people from the stadium side. They told them initially they were trying to force them to enter the stadium, tell them to enter. They said they told them to stay in the stadium. They're in the stadium. That they didn't tell them to enter the stadium.
That was Abuja.
And that was Abuja.
Yes.
That they would do that. But in Lagos, that they came to Ganifa Remi Park in Ojota.
You know where they started?
Ikeja, under bridge.
Ikeja Bridge.
Under
the
long computer,
trek.
yes.
If you know where it is.
That's usually the route for protest. It's either you take from Ikeja under bridge and move to Alausa Secretariat to the governor's office, and which is a shorter clip, the same Awolowo way.
But
in Ikeja.
you proceed to Ojota.
But the Ojota is a very long route because you have to proceed from there. You have to now come to Okpebi Junction, Allen Junction, and Okpebi, you move down, or you come all the way towards Alausa and take. So it's a very, very long route. It's a very long route.
They made it.
They made it, and they refused. They said that the government told them that they can release the Ojota Park, Ganifa Remi Park to them, and the protesters got there. They were overgrown with grasses. So keep passing. So there's a new agency in Lagos called Lasa Park that has to do with parks. So what are they doing? So they're just busy collecting parking spaces and the rest. When Governor, what is this man's name? Fashola was governor. The lawns and parks in Lagos can compete with anyone in Europe. They were tendered, they were clean, they were well cultivated. You cannot say overgrown grass or flower. But protesters got there today, and the whole place was overgrown with weeds. So they now said they're not going to enter that place. So they now stayed on the service lane of Ikorodu Road, which is now, there. And it caused a lot of traffic. But I think they were able to, and I think like 2 hours ago, they dispersed. Around 4, they dispersed. And they said they will be back tomorrow. And that they hope that the state government would have cleared that place so that they can have a conducive atmosphere for protest. But one good thing that went on is that, as you said earlier, there were movements. While they were protesting in the park, the movement was going on. Vehicles started coming out later, and there were even traffic because they needed to divert vehicles from the service lane to the main lane. So if things can happen that way, that means with proper engagement, people can also...
Okay, you're not a lawyer, but of course you're versed in public affairs. Lagos and Ogun state governments procured the court injunction restricting the protesters to particular areas. Did you feel the government went overboard?
I think they did, because remember that whatever you do today will haunt you tomorrow. You went just few hours. This is not labor union strike or whatever. This is a citizen engagement. So even if you wanted you test the legitimate rights enshrined in the Constitution, you want to say that you want to get a court order, not for them to do it, but to be restricted in a particular park. I think that you are supposed to have started engagements for a long time before now, and would have even agreed with the protesters that they can stay in the park. And the court was just few hours. Court order was few hours, which is the normal Nicodemus way our people do things, to catch the protesters unaware. I think maybe that was a strategy. These strategies are old. These were the strategies that were used by the military. They are old tactics. I think we should learn how modern governance is done. If you really wanted to go to court, why not? Why did you not start the court process on like 4 weeks ago, so that like this a week before the action starts, the protester would have gotten their court order, and some of them this morning were saying that they didn't see any court order, they have not been served. So that is causing, if the government procured a court injunction just yesterday night, and the security agencies are trying to implement that court injunction, and the protesters are saying we have not been served, then it causes more of chaos. So if you must get a court, you must test these things in court. Go earlier. Go to the court earlier. Let's get it so that if the court has given you this injunction or telling you that restricting them to, they might have this thing like this kind of court would have come last week.
So it was like an ambush.
It was ambush, which those kind of ambushes.
Okay,
are not
let
good
me
for.
ask you this. The past 2 days, there appeared to be one kind hush-hush movement by government. Did you hear anything about saying government has released the 20 trucks of rice, 50 kg rice? They sell it at 40,000 naira or 50.
No, that was even last week. It was not.
Okay, yeah.
That was last week. And
did you see this thing trickle down anywhere?
Well, the fact that I saw a video, I don't know the state.
No, did you see where they are selling the rice? Because nobody has said.
No, nobody was saying.
Nobody has said they bought the rice.
I even saw a video where that went viral, where a warehouse, some people caught some people who were repackaging the rice from, because the federal government bags of rice were branded,
Okay.
not for sale. So some people were now moving that rice to another branded rice, bag of rice that is not federal government branded. So in an attempt to go and sell it in the market. So diversions, and some people caught them.
No, my question is
Now,
this last minute hush-hush movement.
No, the issue is that it is a normal way.
Even if they brought 1,000 trailer of rice and grains, was it going to change anything?
The way this government solves its own problem is so elementary. There's hyperinflation. Borrow money from what bank? Transfer 10,000 they transferred or 50,000 to poor homes.
How many poor homes?
How many poor homes
how
got
many,
that?
how many poor homes got
They
that?
say there's hunger in the land. You are selling 10 trucks of rice to a state. Where would they share that to? So you can see the elementary, pedestrian, and crude way in which you are solving economic problems. So what is that going to do? And you are even proudly announcing, I hear ministers say, oh, the governor, the president has tried, I just sent some trucks of rice. I say, where did these people come from? So the issue is that how the government treated them in their own time? So you can't treat governance like this. You said that we are not put the refineries in order, you removed first subsidy. We are still talking about that you floated the naira. So we are not doing prescription, borrowing money. We are talking, you bought yachts, you bought presidential jets, you bought private president.
Time is running. I want to quickly ask you two questions. One is the government. Okay, the government seem to be confused. What will be a prescription going forward? That's for government. Then for protesters, today just the one. Do you think they have the steam to go through the 10 days? Do you see the steam dying somewhere? Double-barreled question.
The government needs help. But for somebody to...
Did they tell you they need help?
You see, that's when they're meaning is when you try, somebody will say, I've tried my best.
Yeah.
They will ask, what's the outcome of trying your best? If your outcome of trying your best does not solve the problem, you have not done anything. So it's all motion, no movement.
Okay, so what's the advice to government?
So the advice to government, they need help. Get the best hands. I've advised this government, go and meet, Obasanjo is still alive. Let him give you the template he used between 1999 to 2003 and how he was able to assemble some of the best brains in Nigeria from home and abroad to be able to put his economy, Nigeria coming from a pariah state, and we're able to put our economy in order.
And then
get them, irrespective of party politics, irrespective of tribe. For the protesters, well, some people, when they were dispersing Ojota, I heard somebody say, are you coming tomorrow? Somebody say, yes, I'm coming. So let them be civil. Police should cooperate more. They should emulate what happened in Bayelsa, even in those states where the police commissioner is working with the people. The governors of the various states, if he must continue, should now say, okay, can we use the Bayelsa template, for example? Can we make this place comfortable for the protesters? I hear one analyst will say, why not even buy snacks for them? Well, just turn it to a carnival, let them be contained in the place. These people are young people, and they get carried away.
And the states, must they remain at home, or should they come to work?
For the Southeast states, I think the Bayelsa templates can also work. Already, they are not even interested in the protests.
Okay.
That is very clear. So people, if they are not interested in the protest, so what's the fear? So if day one has gone, and we say that it's very clear that Southeast is not interested, so people should come out for legitimate duties.
Dr. Ambrose Igboke, thank you so very much for your time, and we hope that when we call on you next time, we find time to come.
Thank you for having me.
And to our viewers, it's been a pleasure having you there. Join us tomorrow, same time, for another interesting edition of Uncommon Conversations. Thank you.